It's 1985, and this is Jack Wagner, an accountant for Ernest & Whitney, a firm that was hired to help run the first ever NBA draft. The Knicks, being the only big market team in the draft, haven't made the playoffs in 2 years, and have just been acquired by a public holding company, also known as Paramount, who also used Ernest & Whitney to keep all their books.
To further mix the envelopes, and then I will conduct the drawing.
They also appointed
Dave DeBuscher
as the general manager for the Knicks.
spinning the drum. About 6 turns. I think.
All this to draft Patrick Ewing, a player some reporters were calling a generational talent.
The second pick in the 1985 NBA draft goes to the Indiana Pacers.
But this was the last draft ever shown live on TV. In 1986, the NBA moved the lottery behind closed doors, and Dave DeBuscher was fired just 6 months after this lottery. But publicly, it grew massive in popularity. By 2022, the lottery system was used not only in the NBA, but the MLB,
The Minnesota Twins.
NHL,
Let us know when it hits 0.
and the WNBA.
The Chicago Sky.
Over 316 total picks were made using the lottery system. So it worked. Well, kinda.
Cleveland got the number 1 pick. I just don't think that was.
What are you saying?
Now, there was always speculation about every draft, but what I wanted to know was the real motive behind it. Was it actually to avoid tanking, or was there something deeper?
And he pulls me to his side. You want to play where it's cold or where it's hot? He asked me that, and I was like, hot.
The Orlando Magic selects Shaquille O'Neal from Louisiana State University.
Somewhere within all this tabloid stuff, there is a legitimate issue. Yes, I agree.
I think he's in shock.
Was the fix in for the lottery?
Have you stopped beating your wife yet?
Sure, the Lakers were one victory away from the NBA title, but get real.
It's 1980. The NBA is struggling.
The owners claim that the league's 23 teams lost a combined total of $39 million last year.
People just really don't care about the
We're
league.
trying to be responsible to the people who, in turn, enjoy our sport, attend our sport, and view our sport.
This is Larry O'Brien, the NBA commissioner. He knows this is happening, and he decides to make some changes. The first being appointing a new executive VP of business. A 37-year-old lawyer who has been working his way up through the NBA organization seems like the perfect candidate. His name, David Stern. As he starts in his new role, he sees a massive opportunity, a bunch of new media deals, a relatively new source of income that the NBA is just starting to tap into.
People are beginning to focus on the players and how great they are.
Johnson!
At the same time, Paramount, the biggest movie studios in Hollywood, is growing. Behind the leadership of Charles Bluehorn, they released Godfather, Chinatown, and Love Story, all massive successes, booming their evaluation to $182 million by 1966. With all this extra cash, Charles starts buying up companies. And lots of them. A sugar company, a zinc company, supermarkets. Anything he thinks will make him more money. Until suddenly, in 1983, after growing the company to worth over $5.3 billion in value, he dies, leaving the entire company to his son, Martin S. Davis. He thinks the company is bloated. He starts selling any company that is not media related. In total, freeing up $3 to $4 billion in cash. He takes that cash and puts it right back into the media business, with the biggest investment being the New York Knicks. But at the time of this acquisition, the Knicks sucked.
Certainly not a pleasure to lose. And I say losing can become as contagious as winning, and I think everybody on our team is quite concerned about the recent losing streak, but I generally think that in the long run we're pretty optimistic.
And to run this new team, Martin S. Davis selects David DeBuscher, this guy from earlier, to be the general manager and coach of the Knicks.
Thank you very much.
While all this is going on, Larry O'Brien is getting old, and he knows that he needs a replacement. Where does he look? David Stern. After all his time working with media companies, David knows exactly how much money there is in media. With TVs becoming the most popular way to watch anything, He knew this was an opportunity for the NBA to make more money than they had ever dreamed of. Billions of dollars.
The country is getting interested very much again in the NBA.
Bird, little fake, down the lane. Oh!
But there was one major issue. Tanking.
The Golden State Warriors, Tommy, quite frankly, were playing horrible.
Teams losing on purpose in order to get a higher draft pick. And it worked at the time, because the draft was determined by a coin flip. If you were one of the bottom 2 teams in the NBA, you had a 50% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. And this was terrible for TV ratings, because advertisers had no idea if the game was going to be competitive or not. So David Stern creates the lottery, where the 7 worst teams will all have equal chance to get the number 1 pick. But does all this even matter? Will the number 1 pick fix the Knicks? Can the introduction of the lottery fix the NBA's tanking problem? And what if the number 1 pick sucks, and none of this even matters?
7 foot, tall from Cambridge, Mass.
But he did. One of the most hyped players in college basketball, some calling him a generational talent. Makes it to the Final Four 3 times and wins a national championship. This is why the stakes were so high on draft night. A player that can turn around an entire franchise. A player that can lock in TV deals that David Stern needs for the future of the NBA. All of this riding on 1 pick that they now have control over. But this is just the start. The whole thing gets way deeper than we ever thought. The NBA used Ernest & Whitney to run the lottery, the same company that ran the books for the entire Western and Gulf portfolio. There is even a quote from Jack Crumple, Madison Square Garden president, that says, "I told them how to fix it 60 days ago. You call up Ernest & Whitney and say, if we don't get Ewing, you're fired." But all of this leads up to make me, and I think many other people, ask the question, what is the motive behind this? Does the number 1 overall pick even generate enough revenue for this to be worth it? How many generational players are there that actually change franchises? In the 48 hours following the draft lottery, the Knicks received 1,000 season ticket requests, all based on the hope and promise that Patrick Ewing can change the Knicks. But so what? This is just the immediate impact. What about over the years in their career? Unexpectedly, according to the data, first-round picks win more. This graph shows the projected win shares per pick. But there is also some biases here. You pick someone first, you're going to play them more, you're going to give them more chances, along with even more outliers. LeBron, D. Rose, Shaq, just to name a few. But the people involved with all this shady stuff don't care about win shares, they care about money, just like the rest of the world. So how much money is there in these picks? Now, if anyone was going to create value for their local team, it's Michael Jordan. This is the local revenue for the Bulls starting in 1985. Shocking, right? He honestly didn't contribute that much. Being one of the greatest players ever, it makes you question, why would you ever want to rig a draft? But there's more to this story. In the 1980s, local teams could only monetize through tickets and local TV deals. There was limited cable reach, so local teams, even with a massive player like Michael Jordan, couldn't make much money. So the league profited from this much more than the Bulls did, just like they did for the Knicks, who show a similar story. But this could be a bigger motive for the NBA. To place a player like Patrick Ewing in a big market like New York could raise the value of the overall league. But over time, as TV became more accessible, local teams started to profit more. We can see this with LeBron and Derrick Rose, who lifted their team's revenue quite a bit during this time. So the short answer to all this is yes. If you draft a player like LeBron or Derrick Rose, it can change your franchise in both revenue and win shares. But there's another part of this that we're missing. When LeBron was drafted by the Cavs, he signed a 4-year, $18.8 million deal. For reference, his last contract with the Lakers was a 2-year, $104 million deal. A first-round pick can boost ticket revenue by $4.5 million in just the first season. So for both of these deals, it basically pays for the first-year contract of these players. And yes, I understand we're talking about Derrick Rose and LeBron here, but this happens for all picks, even if they suck. So you get the players on the cheap, and even just based on pure hype, you get more ticket sales. This graph right here shows the difference in how much players are worth versus how much they cost. So Patrick Ewing paid back his investment, as do most, if not all, number 1 picks. He also helped the overall league by lifting one of the league's biggest markets up, but I don't think any of this makes it worth it to rig a draft, especially for a new commissioner who's trying to find his way in the NBA. But let's go back to this graph. Again, we can clearly see that 1985 is the year before the league's revenue really takes off. But what we can't see is the amount of TVs that are in American households, and this line shows that. So what's revealed here, at least to me, is that the NBA revenue is really lagging the amount of TVs in American households. And I think it's fair to say that this is probably the main reason as to why the revenue increased as much as it did. Did changing the draft to a lottery have some influence over it? Did it make it more appealing to advertisers? Probably. But overall, the adoption of TV and media rights allowed the NBA to increase its revenue significantly. But there are still a few massive questions that remain. Why did they move the draft in 1986 behind closed doors?
We have this complicated set of numbers and a machine that looks like the lottery. We invite representatives of all of the lottery teams so that they can be sitting there watching it. And we asked Ernst and Young, to certify the process.
The reason they put the lottery behind closed doors was to negate people from talking about it in a conspiracy manner. And I guess that makes some sense, as the NBA wants to keep their image and the internet is pretty ruthless with their opinions on things. But also, why do they use Ernst & Young? Or as we know them, Ernest & Whitney, the same accounting firm used by Paramount, who owns the Knicks. I too thought this was a little weird, so I really dug deeper into it to see if there was any actual information that backed the reasoning behind hiring them. In 1985, at the time, there were 8 large accounting firms in New York City, and only one of them specialized in games of chance. And guess who that was? Ernst & Young. They had previously worked with over 50 lottery organizations worldwide, and it just happened to be the company that Paramount also used for their books. So did they rig the 1985 draft? Is the lottery used to have control over the NBA and who gets picked first? I have no idea. All we can do is look at the information that we have. And based on all this, there are some sus things that they did. But at the same time, there is really no monetary reason that they would go through all this just to get Patrick Ewing to the Knicks, in my opinion.
With the announcement.
First pick, select Patrick Ewing.
If you like this style of video, let me know in the comments. And here's a full-length documentary on Steph Curry I made if you want to support more of my work.